Hello, and welcome back to Therapist Plays Disco Elysium. Okay, today's episode is a pretty deep one. In our adventures into the fishing village, we come across a couple of individuals who are still struggling deeply with their addictions, which present a unique opportunity to kind of check in on how our character is doing with his own addiction and kind of getting into the complicated subject of making peace with our past and kind of reckoning with who we're becoming as a person. Is it possible for these two things to coexist? And what does the process of healing psychologically from prior traumas and an active addiction actually look like? So there's a lot to break down in this one, lots of interesting psychology to talk about. So let's get into it. Okay, let's continue. All right, we have made it barely 10 steps into the fishing village. We've already spent several hours here, which is just amazing. This game is so dense. That's just life, friend. Okay, a bunch of people just laying around talking about their existential crises. I mean, I gotta investigate.
You stop mid-step and put your hand on the garish necktie.
Oh, here we go. I keep forgetting to take this fucking thing off.
That bottle, Bratan! Just look at that bottle!
Okay, look, several of you have asked me to like engage with the necktie, and I think now is the time. I'll just say, I just find it annoying as shit. I just find him annoying. But let's talk about what it represents as a aspect of Terry's psychology. Let's let it do its thing first, and we'll see. Where? Bottle? What?
In this drunk's hand, on the pipe there, glowing blue, a mysterious, otherworldly blue, filled to the brim with holy mysteries. It's hard to know what exactly your vivid interior is speaking of here, but I'm guessing it's got a lot of alcohol in it.
I really don't care about any bottle. I don't want to look at it.
You should care! I'm getting a very special vibe from that bottle. Please go talk to him. I need to look at it closer.
Dude, I fucking hate the necktie. Okay, let's talk to these gentlemen, and then we'll see how the necktie chimes in. I'm willing to give it a chance, but I just find its voice grating.
Good to see you, friend. Do I have deals set up for you, buddy boy?
Kind of deal. What are you talking about?
So what do you want? I got smokes. They're cheap. Very cheap. I got Pilsner. Great deal. You won't get a better deal on that piss. Spirits I can let go for 300 real. I also have speed. And by speed, I mean amphetamine.
Okay, so you're just a bundle of my worst impulses.
See? There it is, Bratushka! The spirit! Let's buy the spirit! 300 real is a lot, but this has to be done!
We don't have 300 real.
It's our end game!
This is why I don't fucking like the necktie. Like it's antithetical to like my specific role play. When I say I don't like the necktie, I don't mean like I don't think it should be in the game or it doesn't serve a purpose. I'm not talking about like game design or narrative design. I'm saying like me as like a person role playing this game, I don't like it. And I don't like my Harry doesn't like it because we're trying to change. We are in the process of meaningful change. And we have this this character, this like I mean it's a character, it's an artifice of his perspective, like whatever it is, that's pushing him into to engage in like the kinds of behaviors that we're trying to distance ourselves from. So no, I don't like that it's trying to pull us towards that stuff, and not even for a compelling reason from what I can gather, right? It's a different thing when there's like an emotional complex that's driving us into that. Like, oh, I'm feeling extremely depressed, or I feel lost and abandoned, and we seek, um, we self-soothe with alcohol or drugs or whatever it is. But this one just like the necktie it just would be awesome, bro. Like it doesn't appeal to like the psychodynamic crisis that my character is experiencing. Um, like I said, that's not the same thing as do I think it has a valid place in the narrative? Totally, it totally does. I just find it personally a little grating. But I guess I mean, I may keep it on just to see where it goes. What if I don't want to listen to my necktie anymore? That's kind of where I'm at.
Snap out of it, Bratan! This is no time for melancholy introspection! It's time to buy that spirit!
Do you see what I mean? Okay, if you have spent any amount of time with me, Brady, all time is melancholy introspection. That's all I do. It's literally my personality. What do you mean there's no time for it? Then I must not exist. That's like my whole fucking life. Is that? This is just another stupid drunk idea I'm having that I'm attributing to my necktie. That's the thing. It's like how much of this is just our own anthropomorphization of the necktie, or is it like, I don't know. Is it like our skills? Like, is it a ludonarrative thing? I don't know. I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Bratan, you don't understand! It's not just another drink! This is what our relationship has been building towards all these years! This is the climax! The mystery! The virginal sigh!
I'm getting like that feeling when like you're hanging out with a friend who's drunk, you've been drinking with, but you're not that drunk. But they're past the point of like social introspection where they can't tell how loud they're being or how close to you they are, and like they're just talking like this, and that's the vibe I'm getting right now, where I'm like, I am not as drunk as you, necktie, and I think you need to go home.
You have to buy it from him!
This is
Get
torture.
It off him! Kill him if you have to! Our ultimate fate depends on it! And the fate of
Shut
many
up.
worlds.
Shut up. I hate this thing.
The lieutenant looks at you, looking at the bottle of spirits, then at Rosemary, suspiciously. He knows something is going on in your head.
Okay, we can buy a bunch of shit. Let's just do some investigation. Quite the business venture you've set up here.
Oh, the system's been good to old Rosemary here, and I'm milking her like a bitch goat in the backyard.
What? What do you mean?
You see, friend, man makes his own luck, and I made mine real good. Got my hands on 3 bottles of liquor exquise, sold 2 to the fellows around here, and immediately invested the profit.
Okay, so you've got yourself a little bit of an enterprise here.
Bought cigarettes, bought beer, even bought a bit of speed. And look at me now. I got everyone on my hook.
He's delusional. I'm already hooking for Kuno, I think. Looks like you're on your own hook too. Impressive entrepreneurship. Got a permit for this little shit. Let's just indulge him. You look like you're on your own hook.
Of course, of course, of course. It is what it is, you know. What it's always been. People, buddy boy. It's the people.
So this is a very appropriate setting to share a bit of my experience working in the addiction space with people who often talk about this moment where something changes about their perspective around addiction and when they see other people with an addiction. So I often am working with people who, let's say, are addicted to amphetamines, alcohol, fentanyl, heroin, whatever it is. And when they're out in the world and they see someone who is on their own hook like this, there is, when you are still on that like spectrum of, you're still closer to the addiction side than more invested in your sobriety. When you see people gathered like this and you see opportunity for use, they talk about being drawn to that and seeing it more as an opportunity, right? And they may be more inclined to either buy into this guy's thing or be, they consider themselves like at the same associative like level, right? Like someone also engaged in using. However, the deeper they get into their psychological work and their sobriety, and the more attached they come to that, like the more they land on that side of the spectrum that's closer to recovery. When they see a conglomerate of people like this engaging in use, it's less attractive, more repulsive. Like they see it and there is a, those people are something other than me. They're not me, right? They're not associates of mine. They're a hazard. They're not an opportunity. Um, and the experience that I've had in talking with those people is that that change usually comes, like what I would define as someone really over that line in their addiction is if you are still sober due to the consequences of your addiction, then you're still on that addiction side. Like if you're only sober because the consequences of being high are too great. It's only when you cross that line of, I now like being sober more than I like being high, right? That there is an attachment to that sobriety and the lifestyle and the relationships and the opportunities that it provides. That it's not like, okay, now I'm not just being sober because I'm outrunning my addiction, but I'm sober because I like it. I like it more than the alternative. Um, Again, I'm not someone who personally struggles with addiction. It's I've had my exposure to it both personally and professionally, obviously. But that's my synthesis of what people have spoken with me about. And where do I feel like Harry is at with his addiction? I feel like Harry, especially now after we've sort of like distanced ourselves from the compensatory super cop illusion, and we are discovering positive things about ourselves, both past and present, and we are developing positive relationships in Kim and some of the people we've recently met, especially people like Fritta Girl, who we're changing their lives, or we represent something to them, right? We represent something to Annette. We tried to represent something to Kuno. Like we are developing attachment to the part of us that is not on the addiction side of that spectrum, right? And so to me, it makes more sense for our character to be in this space now where we're not looking at these guys like an opportunity. We're looking at them like a hazard. Um, and we don't see this as like, ooh, I can delve deeper into my addiction, and here is the validation, right? Here is the lifestyle working functionally. Here is someone quite successfully enterprising themselves through it. No, we look at this and we find a kind of uh like distaste in it, like a repulsion. Like I don't belong to this collective and I shouldn't be. So I'm not gonna buy any smokes, and I'm not gonna buy any Pilsner, and I'm not gonna buy any spirits. Let's ask him why it's so expensive, though.
See, friend, it's real valuable. Worth every real, if you catch my drift. Got it from a bit of a business venture.
I'm gonna give him one of these.
You know, it's funny, actually.
What is?
What?
What do you mean, what? What did you think was funny earlier?
This guy.
Conversation might bring a discount, no?
I really don't want spirits anymore.
So what do you want then?
I want to
His
leave.
tone is aggressive. You're getting on his bad side now.
Good.
The alcohol boiling his blood causes the agitation.
Okay.
It burns.
I'm gonna... Let me see if I can just buy the spirits. I'm not gonna drink it, but I want to see if I can get away with 3 real. Maybe I can upsell it to the pawn shop.
Finally came to your senses, buddy boy. Ain't nobody else gonna give you a price like that. Had to let life squeeze you to get that, huh?
It's cool. So can I get it for that?
Sure, friend. A bottle of high-quality spirits coming right up. That'll be 3 real, and you'll practically rob me at this price.
How much can I sell that for? I'm just gonna take it so that I can sell it. Fuck it.
Just make sure to enjoy that one, friend.
Bratan, I am so proud! Now, whatever you do, don't drink it! This deserves so much more than just regular oral consumption!
The tie is so on the money there. Up the bum it goes.
That's the thing. I feel like electrochemistry already covers the base of the impulsive, like dopamine driving character. Like I don't understand really why we need both. Because electrochemistry I can understand. It's sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system impulses. The necktie is like a weird anthropomorphization, which I just find super annoying. Yeah, I don't want to put it up my butt.
Who said anything about putting it up there? No! We're gonna put it into a way more special place! So special! Just hang on to it! Keep it safe! Wait for my sign!
Okay, dude.
Soon. The time will come soon. Have patience, brave one. I'm getting a really dark vibe from this. This won't be pretty.
Well, whatever it's for, we have it.
In the civilized world, it's a custom to tip the shopkeep, friend. But come back anyway.
Right. Okay. These guys have anything else to say? Doctors are idiots, buddy boy. Yeah, that's evident. Thick and thorny to pass through. Don't call Abigail, grumbles an unshaven man with a ruddy nose. He narrows his eyes at you as if in recognition, then turns his head away.
Don't you call her? Yeah! Don't call Abigail!
Ah, is this the fucking guy, the drunk guy? The missing husband?
Uh-huh. Abigail. Don't you fucking call Abigail.
Abigail is his wife or girlfriend. Chances are she's gone.
Maybe it's
Calling
something.
her wouldn't make it any better or worse. Never thought you'd see such a thing in your life. But this guy's a little too drunk.
And see, electrochemistry is far less bias of a voice in this category of influence than the necktie, because electrochemistry is alerting us, both good and bad, to what our nervous system is picking up, right? And it's picking up like a little bit of that transference, that anxiety of like, yeah, this guy's actually too drunk. Why shouldn't I call Abigail?
He snorts and beckons you to lean in closer.
I guess we'll lean in.
Don't call Abigail. Don't call Abigail.
Who are you? What's her name?
Don't call Abigail.
Sad. It's sad, man. I gotta find this Abigail. I gotta reunite them. Where am I? What is this
The man
place?
hiccups, then mumbles something unintelligible.
Hey, I'm an important official investigation. I demand you answer my questions.
There's no use in yelling at drunks. He's barely holding it together.
That's true. That's fair.
The drunk man starts coughing, a really disgusting, hacking cough. He does not sound well at all.
Tell me about your friends.
Don't you fucking call her. Hear me? Abigail? Don't call. Abigail. 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 Don't call
Okay.
There was little chance he'd be a reliable witness anyway.
What about this gentleman?
Hey, Tequila!
Idiot doom spiral. A 30-something man clad in two-piece Lycra TM tracksuit puts down his Pilsner, extends his hand in greeting.
Good to see you. How's business? How's the whole reality situation treating you?
Let's shake his hand.
So what's happening?
Wait, tequila?
Yeah, Tequila Sunset. How are the, high-concept, reality-based adventures proceeding?
Good. These people know your true name. Looks like it has preceded you, Mr. Sunset. More on that later.
So we must have hung around with them at some point.
I like this guy. You should too. He respects you by calling you your true name.
I fucking hate the necktie. I don't care what it, like, I just don't like it. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, really. Like, that's just my, it's my reaction to it is like, it's so grating. You guys say it has some great narrative payoff, so maybe I'll hang on to it, but like, I don't know. There's a difference between like, oh, it serves this purpose. It's his friend, it's whatever, it has a narrative thing. But the fact is that, like, viscerally, I just don't like it. I don't like its voice. I don't like what it has to say. I don't think it's helpful to my character or my roleplay. I just think it's annoying. Reality, it makes me aggressively sad. No, we're actually kind of on an optimistic turn here. Nothing special like everyone else. I have all sorts of wild thoughts running through my head, but then I pick the most boring one. That's true, really. Yeah, let's go with
Things
that.
aren't going super well for Idiot Doom Spiral either. Haven't found those keys yet, haven't won that great piece of ass back. No word from my business buddies.
This guy's your buddy. You feel it immediately. You belong to an organization, a fraternity of drunks.
What is a tequila sunset? You keep saying it.
It's you. You're Tequila Sunset.
How do you know this?
We've met before. Don't you remember?
No.
Aha. Do you want to know how Tequila Sunset came to be?
Tequila Sunset. Something ominous there.
I mean, as part of our willingness to be open-minded to our past, I think it would be appropriate to learn what we did. In fact, it may bring us more of an attachment to the Harry of the present. Go ahead.
Let me take a sip to moisten up my chords. Tequila Sunset rolled into Martinez last Friday, and by Tequila Sunset, I mean you. The man, the myth.
Was I alone?
Hey, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. This is your story. Stop interrupting. You got here on Friday to solve a case, hoping to be the early bird who gets the worm. And by the worm, I mean the buzz. Because as far as I know, all you did was get piss drunk. Word on the street is you went around the local hostel telling people that you're a police officer, and that it would be really fucked up if you shot yourself in the head right in front of them. That's pretty high concept, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Does that sound like something you'd do? Yeah, probably.
Probably.
The lieutenant's brow is furrowed. He's listening as casually as he can.
What happened then?
It was a late Saturday night when we, the Union of Moribund Alcoholics, were getting our drink on. Nothing remarkable about this. We get our drink on 24/7. Makes everything warm and glowy. I trust you know the feeling.
Oh, yes, you do, Bratushka. The only thing better than that is putting the pedal to the metal after you kiss the tie. And off we go.
One moment we hear the sound of a motor carriage revving up somewhere on the plaza. followed by a series of dings and bangs. Naturally, loud noises pique the interest of anybody owning a pair of ears. That's just the reality we're in.
Naturally.
Anyway, there was a brief silence, a gasp of silence, if you will, followed by a real commotion. We heard the carriage careening towards the coast at top speed. Sounded like someone jumped the canal. We grabbed our brewskis and rushed to the jetty. Never underestimate the speed of an alcoholic. What we saw was a sight to behold. A beat-up police carriage containing you. Right there on the beach. You revved the engine and screamed at the top of your lungs, "The time hath come!" So, naturally, being the curious cat I am, I asked what time hath come. To which you replied, "The time hath come for Tequila Sunset, the end of all things."
Say nothing. It's more dignified that way.
After which, your reality contracted. You jammed the pedal, plowed right off the jetty, and through the ice.
Your hands cramp on the steering levers.
We ran towards the ice whilst you crawled your way out, miraculously unhurt, covered in seaweed and shit. When we finally got there, you were sitting on the beach crying. You said that your badge and uniform were in the car. It was too late to get in there, though. The carriage had sunk too deep. Recognizing a brother in need, we offered our condolences and invited you to party with us, which you naturally agreed to. We asked about the whole Tequila Sunset thing, and you told us it was your name now and insisted that we all call you that from then on.
Tequila Sunset. Yeah, my name is Harry. We're becoming more and more attached to this person. It's sort of a composite of who we were that we have yet to fully accept or even uncover the depths of our prior trauma and depression. But we're like willing to approach that subject with like a kind of self-empathy, right? A capacity and a willingness to understand who we were and why we came to the point where we would want to erase ourselves. But I feel like we've done enough good as Harry again, not just like related to the memories we had, but the present ones, the things we actually have like a real present memory of, actions we've taken since our amnesia. That is a Harry all its own, who we've become a little more attached to, in part due to Kim's acceptance of us. I think without Kim here, seeing us go through that and being that non-judgmental presence, I feel like we would have been far too insecure about some of the things that we've been doing. My real name is Harry.
No, that's just what your mother called you. Your real name is Tequila Sunset. Just embrace it, brother.
How long did we party for?
Hours. It was an all-night drink-a-thon. Then, at some point, I think it was Sunday morning, you got belligerent and wanted to talk about Revacholian women. How they're beautiful and also whores and so on. How one of them fucked you real bad. After a short while, you crossed the event horizon, looked sullen, got up, and left without saying anything.
Okay, so this is the one subject we've really not uncovered a lot of yet, and I think that there is some stuff in the ledger we haven't explored, which is this prior romantic relationship of Harry's and how badly it has damaged his self-esteem, which is a very deep subject that I will definitely get into at some point. Self-esteem.
Wow, that's quite a story.
Yeah, I bet Tequila's a fucking legend around the precinct. You must be proud to work with him.
If you only knew.
Hey, for real? I love how he said that. It's like almost a little bit sarcastic. but it's also like kind of true. Oh, Kim. um, did I tell you anything specific about this person that fucked me? Desk.
You were pretty vague about it, but you kept saying you got fucked real hard, and that we've all been fucked too.
Please, don't open that door.
Like I've said, Inland Empire has tried to protect us from engaging with our past, which is such an interesting idea. It's clearly a self-preservation instinct, but our motive is to heal from the past and not to reject or deny it, but to integrate it. And so while I appreciate Inland Empire like being out for our best interest, I have to reject it.
No one's fucked me. I do the fucking around here.
Abigail.
It seemed pretty painful, to be honest with you. If I had to guess, I'd say you're still working through some shit.
I do want to know. I do want to know. Did I mention losing anything else?
Beside your gun and your badge, you
Gun.
said something about your hope or heart or something. To be honest, the details are a little hazy. In retrospect, I guess you lost your motor carriage too? That's a big one.
Anything about my colleagues?
You told us that they were a bunch of fucking losers whose main interest was cramping your style.
It's more like you were cramping theirs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No specifics, though. It was more about you that night. You were the star of the show.
Did I say anything about the case?
Yeah, you said it was no biggie and that you'd solve it in no time.
Well, that didn't
and that
happen.
you didn't need anyone to do it. You're doing it solo now.
A lot of cops go solo and hermit once they reach that level of alcoholism.
Of course.
It's not meant as a joke. He's sorry for the hermit cop.
Ugh. We don't deserve Kim. Did we talk about politics?
Yeah, you said that you'd really behaved unreasonably and failed to uphold your responsibilities as a representative of the coalition.
Did you get a read on what kind of cop I was?
You kept apologizing for being such a bad cop and for the damage you've inflicted on everyone around you.
Interesting.
You also kept pausing to knock the heel of your hand against your temples, saying, "Stupid, stupid, stupid."
God, it's okay. I do want to bring in self-esteem into this discussion now, but I need a reference. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I had the name right. So Nathaniel Brandon was a therapist who prolifically wrote on self-esteem. He describes self-esteem as the immune system of consciousness, right? So the immune system of the body is its defense against like invasive hostile agents, right? Like the better your immune system, the less likely it is that you're going to get sick. That's not to say that you can have a perfect immune system, even as strong as it gets. It just lowers your vulnerability to illness. It doesn't completely, prevent you from getting sick. It just lowers your vulnerability to it. And you can increase your immune system's strength through better dieting, how you take care of yourself, etc., right? And he describes self-esteem as being the same thing, but for your brain. So it's the same idea. The stronger your self-esteem, the less vulnerable you are to illness of the mind, right? And by that I mean like your invasive negative thoughts. So anxiety, doom spiraling, right? Negative self-talk, catastrophizing. It's there to protect against all of these things. It protects you from rejection, isolation, abandonment, failure, right? The idea is that the higher our self-esteem, the more fortified our self-esteem, the more protected we are, the less vulnerable to those threats, right? That's not to say that it's possible to completely defend against them, but if you were to be rejected by someone and you have critically low self-esteem, much more likely to internalize that, to lower our self-esteem even more, and to lead to lots of um, negative self-soothing behaviors like addiction, for example, right? In fact, in that book, Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, he talks about addiction um, related to this, that we can end up in this vicious cycle where like we are subsisting in some ways in a negative life. And to cope with that, let's say it's a shitty job that we hate. To cope with that shitty job, we engage in self-soothing behavior like uh you know eating, disorderly eating, using substances, toxic relationships, like self-soothing gratification. And to support that self-soothing gratification, we participate in this lifestyle. And because the lifestyle sucks, we participate in the gratification to cope. And it just becomes this vicious cycle, right? And the reality of that is like our lowered self-esteem, it leads us to be very compensatory in that dynamic. And so when I think about like what Harry's gone through and all these things that Idiot Doom Spiral is talking about, you can tell that Harry's self-esteem was so low, most likely due to this major rejection, abandonment, breakup, whatever it was, this relationship, that he is no longer protected, right? He's no longer, his immune system's compromised, much like his mental faculties were with Clausia, right? And so he's more vulnerable to the threats of anxiety and depression and the escalating risk-taking behavior that leads to taking lots and lots of substances, right? Inhibitions lowered. Now you're engaging in like really risk-taking behavior, like driving a car. And to be aware that we are engaging in these highly self-destructive behaviors would also lower our self-esteem. So we have to continue the process. We have to get drunker. We have to get higher. We have to avoid as much as we can the reality of what we're doing to ourselves. So we doom spiral. We black ourselves out, right? Like you can see Don't Call Abigail going through the same thing. Like by nature, he wants to not be seen by this person that he cares about. Like, don't tell them where I am. Don't make them aware of me because like I'm in such a terrible state. Harry's self-esteem was so low that he was compensating by this, saying like, oh, I don't need anybody. I can solve the case by myself. They're cramping my style. These are classic low self-esteem compensation statements. Like the person who has to criticize other people and downplay other people, like that's not a sign of like good self-esteem. It's a sign of low self-esteem, that you have to bolster yourself with like very superficial comparisons. And the drunker he gets and the more he faces what he's done, the more he's, you know, he's not protected. His immune system's not functioning against these like negative self-beliefs. You're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. The damage you've done, nobody wants you. All of this stuff, right? And Nathaniel Branden talks about so the improvement of self-esteem, which can be done in lots of different ways. I don't have time to recount them all here because it's literally a whole book about it, but there's 6 pillars that he talks about. Maybe I'll do a video on some of them at some point because it's a big subject, but very interesting and very relevant because part of what we have engaged in our playthrough so far are some of these self-esteem building activities, right? It's accomplishing things. It's learning to relate to people better. It's being understood, achieving that very special moment where like we can be vulnerable to someone like him and not be rejected by him. Okay. Like that's all increasing our self-esteem, strengthening our immune system, making us less vulnerable to urges to use, the threats of anxiety and catastrophizing, and also, and this is a big one, less vulnerable to the hesitation to discover our past. And that's why I'm asking things about like our past relationship, because I feel like our self-esteem as a character, our immune system is now strong enough that there is less of a chance to get sick, to be threatened by learning these things. The higher our self-esteem, the more willing and more capable we are to engage with these very uh, traumatic, threatening ideas of who we were and what we did. So just keep all that in mind. I know it's a lot, but like when I'm role playing this game and I'm thinking about why we're making these choices and um, why I don't find the necktie to be a compelling companion right now is because it's antithetical to what I'm talking about. Like our self-esteem is now at a point where that kind of shit doesn't really phase us. We're more attached to our sobriety. We're more attached to the accomplishment, to the relatability, um, the hope we have tried to instill in people like Kuno and Fritta and Annette and Lily, and the reflection of a positive woman role model in Lillian, right? Who represents something counter to our fucked up ideas about women that have taken shape from trauma related to them. Like this game has perfectly set up the narrative arc for my character to be in this place where urges are no longer compelling, where thoughts and ideas about who we were are no longer as threatening. Yes, they do still provoke some anxiety, which is why they're still hurting our morale and our health a little bit. But they're not leading us into our own doom spiral because our self-esteem is intact. And so it really is as simple as that. Well, it really is it's quite complex, but Brandon's analogy of the immune system works perfectly for uh, my understanding of self-esteem as well, right? Because I've experienced this too. Like times where my self-esteem has been really low, my compensatory behavior at a time in my life was when I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, when I didn't think I was very good at things, when I didn't like myself, both in personality and how I looked, you would find me having really strong opinions about things, like really abrasive opinions about like different psychological ideas and which ones I thought were stupid and these ones are more appropriate and more effective and anyone who thinks this kind of idea works is an idiot. Like I would say shit like that because my compensatory behavior was I had mistaken the idea that if you have a strong opinion about something, it means you're confident, and people will think that you're confident because you have a lot of conviction in what you're saying. And I was like totally wrong in that. And I look back on that and think, wow, what a loser thing for me to have done and perspectives for me to have adopted. But I look back on them thinking like, okay, I've really grown since then, you know? A lot of humility has entered the picture because, I've realized that like having a strong opinion doesn't mean that your opinion is good. And just because you hold on to it very dearly does not mean that it is somehow more, that you have more inherent value in it than someone who has a very loose opinion. In fact, I've gotten a lot more comfortable saying things like, I don't know enough about that subject to have a strong opinion on it, which is kind of the angle I take on politics, where I'm like, dude, if you found me like 3 years ago, I had some really strong opinions about politics that were like just stupid because I didn't really even understand what I was talking about. I just wanted to have a strong opinion. I just felt like that was how I showed myself I was confident, but I was wrong. My self-esteem was actually at an all-time low. I was like in a deep depression. And the better I've gotten, the more I like myself, the more competent and capable and understanding I have gained of, you know, how complex politics are and how viable many theoretical approaches that I don't use are in psychology. Like, the more I have just tempered a lot of that intensity and mellowed the fuck out, because, like, to me, that's a higher boundary of self-esteem, it's just being more secure in what I don't know. And if I don't know it, I don't feel like I really can or should have a very strong opinion about it. So maybe that this has just become a personal therapy session, I realize. But like, what else is this series other than that at this point? But yeah, if you think some of my behavior around the politics discussion and why I've been hesitant to engage in things when I don't feel like I have a full picture of it, it comes from an insecurity that I've lived through. And to me, I've learned that it's better to uh, not not have a stance, but not voice it so loudly, because to me that's a sign of like how I used to be. Like, I used to just be a fucking arrogant, opinionated, uh pretentious person. And maybe there are parts of me that still are, in some areas, but like, I'm working on it. I'm still working on it, you know. Um I've really learned the value of stronger self-esteem. And something that's really interesting that Nathaniel Brandon talks about is that you can't have too much self-esteem, which is an interesting idea. A lot of people's immediate reaction to that statement is, well, what about people who are like too full of themselves? Well, that kind of person has really low self-esteem, right? Like I talked about some of the behaviors Harry is talking about here, where he's like, oh yeah, everyone else ain't shit. I'm the super cop. I can do this alone. They're cramping my style. Everyone else is a loser but me. Like, that's all signs of low self-esteem. The person who is boisterous and compares other people negatively and has to resort to that to uh talk themselves up, real low self-esteem. um Brandon talks about having you can't have too much self-esteem, just like you can't have too much health, like physical health. You can't be like too physically healthy, you know it's just not a thing. Like, having as much self-esteem as you possibly can is always good, because it's not even going to protect you fully from issues. It just lowers your vulnerability to them. So all this is to say, this interaction with these gentlemen and our journey to self-reflect and engage in this melancholy introspection, or what is the journal call it? Rigorous self-critique. The reason we're engaging all of that is because we've been engaging in esteem building acts. At the risk of going on another tangent about terror management theory. Terror management theory, which I talked about in the episode with the Pale for about an hour, has its own view of self-esteem as this buffer from death anxiety. The higher your self-esteem, the less of a threat death anxiety is. And the less of a threat death anxiety is, the more secure you can feel with your mortality. Really interesting stuff. I find that there's so many interesting perspectives on self-esteem, and they're really worth reading into if you're curious. I could be here talking all day about this kind of stuff. I think Disco Elysium is just so excellent at presenting us like the scenarios that like perfectly capture what we're talking about, and giving us such a good narrative pace to it. Like, of course, I would discover these guys right now after the scene with Kim and the motor carriage, like just as our thoughts about who we are starting to come online and we're not feeling as bad about them. Like, present us with a scenario where with worse self-esteem, we would totally just climb down into that fucking cylinder with Don't Call Abigail and spend the rest of our days there as Tequila Sunset. But we won't do that because our immune system is not compromised. Not the way it used to be. I don't need to hear any more of this.
It's a hard thing for a man to confront his past. That's why I avoid mine at all costs.
It's exactly what I was talking about, friend. I'll be seeing you. Or maybe I won't.
You too, Tequila Sunset.
What a game.